Welcome back to the Kristian Garic Show, right here on WGSO 990 AM and WGSO.com. To get in on the conversation, call Kristian at 504-556-9696.
Hey, welcome back to the Kristian Garic Show. I'm Drew Robinson, standing in for Kristian today. I'm a regular contributor on the Kristian Show, usually on Fridays. Kristian's out today, and he's graciously allowed me to guest host. Another regular contributor, Derrick Fossier, is on the line with us now. Just coming back from the break, Derrick, we were talking a little bit about some of the freedoms and the way that I think our country, I think we agree, is really not taking the bait from the other side, but it still is about a 55-45 issue, or maybe even a 60-40 issue at best in some of these issues regarding freedom and censorship and so forth. And I'm interested because and a little bit nervous too, because even though I believe the J.D. Vance speech in Munich was Churchillian or Reagan-esque, I do think that we are in a unique position right now where, we've got some significant powers that are not necessarily on the right side of things, which I think would namely be Russia and China. And then we've got the United States, who is trying to get a big mess in our own house cleaned up, which Trump is doing at warp speed. However, I do think we've got a lot of these European nations, some of these Central American nations, even including, Australia, Canada, Mexico. A lot of other countries are sort of in the middle of this, and it seems like, the old saying is you've got the good, you've got the bad, and you've got the weak. We've got a few of these weak nations that, and the EU is sort of trying to get Europe sort of wrapped up in this woke stuff. I don't know that Europe is out of the woods yet when it comes to sort of abandoning this woke ideology, and I think it starts with a definition of freedom and freedom of speech. So we find ourselves in a position that we're really going to have to make ourselves such a power that some people might come alongside and want to join the Western thought of freedom and democracies. Some people might sort of get pressured into it, kind of like the rhinos are right now. They're just doing it because it's the thing they need to politically survive. But I find ourselves as sort of the lone wolf right now when it comes to Western Europe and standing up for freedom. And I'm a little bit concerned about that burden, but I think we've got to get our own mess cleaned up real quick in order to continue to be able to have that influence on the rest of the world and particularly Western Europe. But what do you think about sort of the way and the position we are as sort of this lone wolf in a bastion of freedom in the world?
Man, that is quite a powerful question. I could probably speak an hour just on that. In an attempt to be brief here, I'll say that while I share some of your concerns, I also see a very bright light at the end of the tunnel near in the distance. So you can look at what Bukele has done in El Salvador. You could look at Milei in Argentina. Those two guys absolutely cleaned up their country. They did what Trump is doing, but they did it to an even higher level because their opposition in those countries was weaker and the population was hungrier for change. America, we are the shining city on the hill. We are number one. We have opened up a massive lead between us and Europe. I mean, we were growing in tandem through about, I want to say 2016 or so. And then Europe decided to make a hard left turn with some of these environmental regulations. They shut down their nuclear power plants. They made their energy reliant on Russia, which just came back to bite them even double today. Whereas you look at countries like China that are building 40 new coal plants a year, regardless of what Europe is doing. So that sets the scale for the world. We're kind of being the first great power that is shaking off some of the burdensome regulations that have grown up. I like to say that democracies are kind of like a backyard. It'll grow into a jungle unless you're clearing out the undergrowth with regularity. If you're not mowing your lawn, you're going to have rats set up and all of this. And I think part of the problem has been that the left, the Democrat elite, they've been using the U.S. taxpayer money to fund a lot of their activities. Not only that, but they've been using their positions of power in government to pressure social media companies to censor conservatives. So not only are they artificially boosting their own signal, and I'm almost 100% certain that a lot of that money was going to pay AstroTurf protesters to show up in America and around the world. So with Trump taking control of power, with the way that he has been a conservative all in his own league, I mean, I think that his administration is going to be studied for decades to come. The way that he, as a conservative, actually grabbed the levers of power and pulled them in a way that benefits conservatives, in a way that benefits the American people as a whole. No other conservative has done this. Not Reagan, not Bush. I mean, I haven't seen this in my lifetime. I haven't read about anybody outside of Andrew Jackson who has been this effective at bringing our government back into an area of sanity. We still have plenty of work to go, but you can already look and see the results. The Democrat Party has an unfavorability rating of 57 to 60%. That's higher than it's ever been. You only have about 27% of the populace that is saying that they have a favorable opinion of the Democrat Party. So I think you have a similar structure in Europe right now. You can look at Macron, and I mean, my goodness, some of the rumors that I've heard about him and his wife, I've yet to see what the full truth on that is. But I don't believe that Europe is being ruled in a true democracy where the will of the people is being reflected. They voted to end the migration. The population hates the migration, but they're still doing it. And so we need to be the example. We need to lead by example. And I think what J.D. Vance did when he went over there, what Pete Hegseth did when he went over there, is they provided the catalyst. They're providing this message. And the way that you're seeing the elite react to it in Europe is further building rage in their population, and it's giving them the fuel that they need to take control of their own countries and reform themselves. I would love to see a Europe that again focuses on freedom of speech, that again focuses on benefiting their own citizens rather than the whole world, because that's exactly what China's doing. That's exactly what the rest of the world is doing, and it's what we need to do as well.
Derrick, that's a great point, and I appreciate your optimism and your perspective on that, and you're making me feel better just sitting here listening to you. So, it reminds me of some good things, not the least of which is to stay in touch with you a little bit more on social media. I know you're on X. Derrick, remind folks how they can follow you and keep in touch with your commentary on these types of things.
We're all on X. Kristian Garic is on there just with his name. You could just search for him. It'll come up. I'm on there with my name as well. It's my first initial D and my entire last name, Fossier. And we're all on X. I think that has the greatest freedom of speech. I think Facebook is, still dwindling, and, you're getting content strikes everywhere else. I see the most interesting conversation happen on X. And what I love about that is people share original documents. You can watch people's speeches for themselves, unedited. You don't have to look at the CBS edited version that's misleading. You can make up your own mind. And there's still plenty of liberals on there. I want the liberals to stay on there. I think it's important for us to talk to each other. I think that it helps lower the tensions when we realize that we all have the same goals. We just have different ways of going about it. I learn things, and I hope people learn things from me as well.
That's great. I don't know if you watched the Super Bowl, Derrick, but I was pulling for the Eagles, not because I'm an Eagles fan. I do like Jalen Hurts, and I like Saquon Barkley, and I like Andy Reid for the Chiefs too, but I was kind of ready for the Chiefs to lose. But as I'm watching the Super Bowl this year, the Eagles went into halftime with a 24-0 lead. And I did not even feel, as I'm sort of have that mindset of an Eagles coach going to that halftime, I'm not thinking for a second about letting up on the gas, because I have that much of a fear of these, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs can come back. And so even though I feel like we've got a lead, and I do appreciate your optimism and I believe you're right, I also feel a sense of urgency that has not let up at all when it comes to keeping that pedal to the metal. And I feel like Donald Trump is leading in that as well, in terms of making sure we continue to push to get things done. And I think being aware of some of the philosophical concerns, and we've talked about, you brought up the World Economic Forum, we've talked about EU. Generally speaking, the threat of globalism is a big problem, particularly as it has infiltrated and corrupted a lot of our U.S. politicians. And not only has it been something that they've been able to get away with, but I think it's also been a place to tuck away and hide some unaccounted for funds that has made corruption a lot easier. But Derrick, man, thanks so much for being on here today. I appreciate your time on the show. You've made this show a lot better for today. But we're going to come back after the final next break and do our final segment on the Kristian Garic Show.
Thanks. Have a great week.